Okay. Good evening and welcome to the July 16th business meeting of the Council of the Borough of Ringwood. This meeting is being broadcast live and will be replayed on Channel 77 and will also be played on YouTube. Nicole, statement of compliance, please.
Adequate notice of this business meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Law, PL 1975, Chapter 231, setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this business meeting by consent agenda resolution number 2019-11, adopted January 2nd, 2019, through a legal notice published in the Suburban Trends issue of January 13th, 2019, and through notices emailed to the following named newspapers and posted on the bulletin board at the Borough Hall on January 7, 2019, the Suburban Trends and the Bergen Record.
Okay, can we have a roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Noonan's absent. Council members Bolton?
Here.
Davison?
Here.
Ferretti?
Here.
O'Keefe?
Here.
Spear?
Here.
Also present is the Borough Manager, Director of Department of Public Works, Scott Heck, Acting Municipal Clerk, Nicole Langemeyer, and Borough Attorney, Richard J. Klimek. Pledge allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Tonight there's no proclamations, presentations, and so we'll move on to the approval of minutes.
First, we have the special meeting, June 6, 2019. Councilman Davison was absent. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Council members Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Abstain.
Ferretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Next, we have business meeting from June 19th. Councilmember Bolton was absent, and there was a change in pink made to page 20.
Okay. Can we get a motion?
I'll move it as amended.
Okay.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Council members Bolton?
Abstain?
Davison?
Yes.
Ferretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to move on to the general public portion. Please limit it to 3 minutes, one shot at the mic, and give your name and address when you speak.
Hi everyone, Ann Seebecker, Fox Hill Lane in Ringwood. I'm here in my role as the Vice President of the Library Association Board. And you know, I've been here recently talking about some of the great things that are going on. I hope you're all stopping in and checking them out. During the search for the new director, we had a wonderful, wonderful kind of committee approach to an interim director, and I'd like to thank Christine Gubbins, Heather Manley-Caldwell, and Wendy Sanford for the wonderful job they did. But I'm thrilled to say that we had an exhaustive search for a new director, and we're very, very lucky and privileged to get a wonderful new director who started last week, and his name is Dan Parker. So I just wanted to introduce Dan, and hopefully you'll all be getting to meet him. He's going to do a lot of community outreach, so we're really excited to have him.
Thanks, Ann.
If I may just take a moment to say I'm very excited to be in Ringwood. I have been incredibly impressed by the sense of community here. I've never felt so welcome in my life. People have made a special trip to the library just to say welcome to Ringwood, and I've appreciated that. And I had a tour of the community. When I first came here, I think I missed most of it. I just came down Skyline Drive and thought that's it. But then people took me around and showed me the neighborhoods and what a beautiful, beautiful place this is. And I look forward to working with all of you and making our community a place that we can all be proud of, particularly at the library. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Bob Flynn, 46 Parsippany Boulevard, Boone, New Jersey. I'm the new JCP&L area manager for Ringwood. I was just up at the county seat introducing myself to the freeholders and kind of making my way to a few towns tonight, but just been hired recently within the past 30 days or so, so I wanted to put a name with the face. I don't know if you've seen the email or any of my outage notifications, but just wanted to introduce myself and pass along some of my contact information to the mayor, council, and some of the other individuals. And we'll be doing some work over the next few years. We've went to BPU for $400 million for 4 years. We've been granted $97 million for 1 year, basically to test out our reliability. So we'll be doing some enhanced tree trimming, which you'll get notifications for prior to our arrival in town, as well as we're installing some equipment called trip saving, which is a device that is an automatic fuse cutout. So essentially when we have transient faults on our primary wires, if that branch ends up falling off, this device will automatically lock back in place. So I'll be circling sort of back around to the towns that we're installing them in, telling you, where we've put them, and essentially we're having our reliability engineers go to the towns to determine where we're having the most problems, and we're gonna be installing these devices as well as doing some enhanced tree trimming. So, thanks for having me, looking forward to working together, and obviously anything in town, please keep me in the loop for. I'm external affairs, so look forward to being active and involved and, communicative with the town, so.
Do you have your card?
I
have
do,
gotten your
yeah.
communications, but
Yes.
yeah, if I could get your cell phone number, I had a great relationship with the last representative, and we communicate a lot. We have a lot of trees in town and
Absolutely,
a lot of
yeah.
outages, and
I have all of Passaic County, so I'll be, making my way throughout these towns, but again, just wanted to stop by quickly and, give my information, so.
Terrific.
Thanks for having me, I'll just leave a bunch of these right here. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If there are blackouts in that, would you have a website or that citizens can get to see what the progress is, where it is, how it's being handled?
We have a live outage map that they can access on our website when they're going to report an outage. They can do it, various forms of social media, as well as see how many customers are out in their particular area. We try to provide an estimated time of restoration in that particular section. It'll essentially show up as a triangle on the area that the people report the outages from. We try and use technology that if we have a transformer that serves 400 people in a certain section of a circuit, we will estimate that to be the number of people if even we don't have that number of reported outages. So we usually encourage towns to put that on their website for residents. It's obviously your discretion, but it's a good tool for constituents to use within town to kind of get a direct link and see actively where we are.
What is the website name? You know it offhand?
I'll get it for you, the exact 24 hours. It's on the
We
bottom
have
of our
it, yeah.
signatures, but
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
provide it.
All right, thanks.
Sure.
and our residents are very well versed in the websites, both for Rock Electric and yourselves.
Yep.
Because we do have occasional outages and whatnot. The link to the southern end of town that went for the reservoir recently is really cut down on the outages significantly, so they have a link both ways, but I'll provide this
It's
to.
the O&R service area.
I see.
That part there.
Okay.
I'll provide this to the chief as well, because they're usually your primary, the chief and myself will be your primary contact.
During a storm?
Yes.
That's perfect, yeah. And again, I'll come back, obviously, when we do the work. It'll happen over the next course of the next, I think, year. So we'll come back and give an update, and hopefully we have some good reliability statistics to give at that point, and, things improve for our residents, so.
Thank you.
But thank you for having me. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next.
Hi, Paula Tedesco, 95 Upper Lakeview. A few days ago, I discovered that July is Lake Appreciation Month. I personally appreciate my lake every day, but lately I've been really worried. Lake Hopatcong, Swartzwood Lake, and today, the news out of West Milford, Greenwood Lake has a toxic algae bloom. Now, that is really close to home. I wonder about the status of the lake grants. Did CUPSO apply? Will it have to close like last year? Will Skyline, Erskine, or Aconda be next? So what can we do? Educate, plan, and take action. The North American Lake Management Society website is full of information and highlights a recipe for a water disaster. What's in the recipe? Climate change, including New Jersey's increased rainfall, fertilizers, faulty septic systems, everything we do on land that gets into the lakes. All of these things affect water quality and contribute to the rise of toxic algae blooms. Granted, pun intended, these things take time. However, there are two things we can do tonight. First, we can encourage the Environmental Commission to be more involved with the lake associations. And second, we can follow Governor Murphy's lead, who passed a Lake Appreciation Month proclamation and pass a proclamation of our own for Ringwood. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read a sample proclamation. Whereas lakes and reservoirs are among Ringwood's most valuable natural resources, and whereas lakes and reservoirs provide drinking water, irrigation, energy, recreation, scenic beauty, and habitat for wildlife, and whereas these beneficial uses have been of vital importance to Ringwood's history, growth, and financial health, and whereas our lakes and reservoirs improve the quality of life for all of Ringwood's residents, and their importance should not go unnoticed, and whereas Ringwood recognizes the need to protect these lakes and reservoirs for future generations, now therefore Ringwood Council and Mayor Martucci do hereby proclaim July 2019 as Lakes Appreciation Month and invite all citizens to take due note of the observance. And I don't have copies, but I could pass this around.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Kate and Sarah, 47 James Drive. At the last council meeting I attended, Mr. Klimek asked me, how do we object to 5G coming to Ringwood when it's being deployed across the country and around the world? In the moment, I was too nervous to think of the easiest and most obvious answer. We just say no. We do not consent to 5G coming to Ringwood. This can be done, but it must be done properly. We are in the position to negotiate with these companies to make sure the needs of Ringwood constituents are met, not the needs of giant corporations. We can conditionally agree to accept a proposed contract if the conditions we set forth are met and documented with an affidavit. Conditions need not be limited to proving 5G is safe. We can also ensure that wireless companies are contributing a fair market share to maintain the public rights of way we, the taxpayers, might so generously and essentially freely give them. And in exchange for what? What exactly are the telecom companies giving back to us? We talk about the rates local government can charge the wireless companies, but not about what rates the wireless companies can charge consumers. A number of major carriers have already announced the service will come at an unspecified additional cost. What good is the service if people can't afford it? I am not opposed to technology. We have advanced and benefited from it in many ways, but 5G is not worth the expense of people's health, privacy, and property value. I believe it is in the best interest of all residents that 5G be kept out of Ringwood, but I also understand that some people do want it here. In this case, I would ask that 5G infrastructure be kept completely out of residential areas. This non-essential technology is being rushed and pushed by the industry, not by the free market, not by demand, not by local consumers. Will you ignore us and cater to the wireless industry? And then I just have a question. What other boards might be involved in any like 5G decision making, like the environmental board, planning board?
All the planning board applications get routed to the other boards, so.
Okay, all right, that's it, thank you.
Thank you.
Robin Kennedy, 310 Lakeview Avenue. Related to what Paul had asked about, at the last meeting, it sounded like Scott was now going to do that lake grant for all of the lakes, and was going to ask for more money, which now means we're in the middle of July, and I guess it hasn't even been applied for yet. And if that's the case, when that gentleman from Cupso started so many months ago, the hope was that whatever benefits would accrue from that grant would be done in time for there not to be any issues with the lake communities in the summer. But here's my other question, because there was some discussion about it being a conflict for the Cupso people. But now, if you've expanded the grant and you're going to be asking for all of the lakes, every single council person lives at one of the three main lake communities. You either live at Cupso, Erskine, or Skyline. So now, does that mean that the council can take no action that benefits the lake communities because the council people live in lake communities, which is pretty much a good part of Ringwood? So that makes no sense to me, that they conflict out. Does that also mean if you apply for a grant, there was some discussion at the last meeting for charging stations for hybrid cars and electric cars, that if you own those cars, the members will have to excuse themselves from voting on that because somehow they benefit from that? When you're a council person and you represent the whole community, but also people who live in similar circumstances to yourself, it would seem that there's a lot of votes that you take that might impact you because you live here. How do you avoid taking votes on things that impact your lives when you're residents that live in this town? But the main question I want is, how are you going to take a vote on a grant that impacts lake communities if none of you can vote on it? Thank you.
Hello, Frank Cerciali, 42 Bearford Terrace. Just want to say I'm opposed to the 5G due to the unknown factors that it may cause. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carol Askin Cerciali. I live at 42 Bearford Terrace. So I've been doing some research in 2019, learning about 5G technology. It's not just a different version of 2G, 3G, 4G. It's a dramatically different. Rather than using low-level radiation, it's high-level radiation. Completely different animal. If you look at peer-reviewed studies, it's been shown unequivocally that it causes heart and coronary disease. It changes our DNA. Increase in miscarriages. People that are prevalent to it get headaches, neurological damage, it interferes with sleep, and the list goes on and on. Now, Ringwood has always been one of the most beautiful places to live in and very family-oriented. But 5G technology is exceptionally damaging to children. They're young, their bodies are small, their metabolisms are different. Do we really want to bring in an untested, unproven technology on high-level radiation that really is an experiment? This is a global experiment, and why should Ringwood run up in front of the line to be guinea pigs for this? There's other technologies out there. We don't need to have to go to 5G in order to get fast downloads. There's 5 nations in Europe, Finland, Sweden, and a few other, that have brought in new technology, faster downloads, faster internet, and guess what? It's low-level radiation. We can do this safe. We can still have progress. We can move with technology, and we don't have to sacrifice our health for this. The last time a technology came in that was going to change the world, it was the automobile. And it took 70 years for the world to realize that leaded gas was extremely toxic. And 40 years after that, we're still dealing with the ramifications of the health effects for that, because 40% of heart disease is connected to lead poisoning. We don't have to go down that road without doing our prudence first. We need to look at this carefully. We need to let technology know that we're not willing to put at risk our health to line corporate pockets. We can move forward, and Ringwood needs to be very careful what they decide to do next. And I, for one, do not want 5G the way it's here in the United States. I would be open to something like Finland's doing, that's low-level radiation. Definitely don't want high-level radiation. There's too many studies that show this unequivocally, and we just don't have to go there. We can have both. We can move with technology, and we can do it responsibly, and we can also keep our health.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. Peter Sando, 24 High Point Lane. I also support the opposition to the 5G coming into town. And speaking of the wireless technology companies coming in and rolling over your laws and your your opposition. I recently Oprah'd the information about the cell tower next to our home at Hilltop Clubhouse, and saw a lot of, hard to understand, pretty technical, but there's some indication that the planning board and the Board of Adjustment are involved. I looked over recent minutes and I didn't see anything. So my question is can you give me any kind of an update on what's going on with that expansion?
I don't have any
Yeah,
information.
well, it's the same as I explained to you before. Let me back up. The provider got in touch with our building department. They said they want to expand the antenna tower area, okay? And they said, as I explained to you, they said they have an absolute right to do it. Our position was you do not have an absolute right, that you have to clear it with our boards, and we advise them accordingly.
Right.
That's where it stopped. They haven't started it, and they haven't gone to our boards, so it's in limbo. That's
Okay.
it. So our position is, the position we'll defend is you must go to our boards.
Yeah.
So if they take any action, they'll have to go to the building inspector, ask for a permit, which will be denied. Okay? So they have done nothing since we set forth our position.
Okay. So I got a letter about one of my neighbors down on Upper Lakeview or Lakeview, one of those roads, which is not really close to us, that they're putting an air conditioner in or something like that. But I haven't received anything about this expansion. So I would request that all the neighbors in the immediate proximity, if there is going to be any action at the Board of Adjustment or the Planning Board, that we would get notified.
Everybody within 200 feet will get.
Because I haven't gotten anything so far. I had to
Nothing's
Oprah it.
happened. Well, nothing's happened, that's why you didn't get notified.
Well, obviously something did happen. They
There's been no
applied,
action.
right?
No, you understand, there's been no action. They took a position, they could do it, we said you can't.
Okay.
And it stopped there. Okay,
All right.
that's it.
Well, I can tell you, I'm hoping that ELPOA is letting the good people who live around the lake and are members of ELPOA what they're trying to do. Because obviously they're selling out that property once again, expanding it into it's like having an industrial zone right in our own neighborhood. And it's not only me. I know when we fought that cell tower in 1999, we had like 20 neighbors that were participating in the fight, which we lost. But it's a shame. It's a beautiful spot. It has a lot of potential, and they're just ruining it. And I don't know if the ELPOA, it's really just pure greed, because I can tell you they're not good neighbors. I mean, a year or so ago, Verizon was mandated to build a fence between our property and them, which is, rotting away now. But at any rate, one of the trees from ELPOA fell through the fence. And I called up Mr. Hernandez, who was the president of ELPOA at the time, and asked him if they could remove the tree and put up that one section of fence, which probably would cost $50 or whatever. And he refused. These are not good neighbors. They don't care about our neighborhood. I'm hoping that you guys can prevent this from being expanded. I mean, it's terrible now, but we don't want it anymore. And I'm sure that 5G will, exist on that tower if they, if the T-Mobile comes in or whoever. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rosemary McKiernan, 180 Upper Lakeview Avenue. I just want to say that I oppose 5G coming to Ringwood.
Thank you.
Glenn Lacey, 32 Windbeam. It's well said, the negative aspects of 5G technology. I work for a telecom internet provider and did a lot of research, and the health issues related to the 5G technology are definitely something we don't want in this town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jim Martin, 46 Marshall Road. I wanted to ask about the consent decree, because over the last two borough meetings, there's been a lot of discussion about some of the nuances of it. It seems that we're entering into an agreement for property that we really don't own, that we didn't operate the dumping site that's responsible for this ecological disaster up in Upper Ringwood, and that we're dealing with a partner, let's say, Ford Motor Company, that might not really be looking at our best interest at this point. Ford itself has some very questionable practices that are coming to light recently. There's been a disclosure that they knowingly were selling faulty vehicles. If you own a Ford Fiesta or anything like that, you're one of those people that were victimized. Also, the future of Ford Motor Company is a big question. They're going to exit the manufacturing of traditional automobiles, moving only to large trucks. Who knows what the future of Ford is 5-10 years down the road? If we were to enter into an agreement that gives them protections, they may not be there when the time comes that we're going to need some of the financial resources that could be necessary to mitigate some of these other environmental problems that we have up there right now. Understanding that the sludge is going to be capped and whatnot, not the best solution that everyone wanted, but it's the one that's in front of us. There still remains the issue of a very considerable amount of water in the mine shafts up there that endangers our groundwater and is located a hop, skip, and a jump away from a very large reservoir. By entering into this consent decree, we could be taking on all of that liability for the town. And that's something that would affect Ringwood not just today, but for generations into the future. And I urge you to reconsider entering into this consent decree because it appears to be a rigged deck against the town of Ringwood and entirely in the favor of Ford Motor Company.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Maria, 42 Bearfort Terrace. I'm someone that has grown up in Ringwood for my whole life. I have chosen to continue living here as I commute to New York City for my job. And I want to say that I don't support 5G, especially not for myself, as well as not for raising a future family here. Thank you.
Hi, Becca Toll, 24 High Point Lane. The consent decree is a moot point. The borough signed it, it's over. Bottom line, there's nothing that can be done. Unless you can find that they did something illegal, maybe you can. But it's over. They worked with Ford to cap over 100,000 tons of contaminated soil on top of wetlands in a residential neighborhood. It's just hard to fathom. I have a question. Is there a contract entered in between the telecommunications and the borough to install 5G?
No.
Nothing.
Contract, no, wait, let me back. First of all, the borough hasn't taken this, we support 5G, okay? And by the way, 5G is a national, international thing. The Federal Communications Commission nationwide regulates it and has passed rules and regulations as to how it can be implemented. It's like when cell towers came out. That was a national program. But it's not that someone got in touch with us and said, Ring would be the leader in 5G. We have no idea. It's just that we took the initiative that if 5G does come here, okay, we can regulate it. We have it that has to get through the manager, it has to be approved by the manager, the location, the site, et cetera, et cetera. We took a proactive approach. There's nothing on the horizon that I know of that anybody's ready to bring 5G into Ringwood. In fact, from what I understand about it, it'll be in the denser areas as opposed to suburban, semi-rural areas. But that's the proactive stance we took with Verizon to get ahead, to have some regulation. Now, again, we're not supporting 5G. That's the next iteration of wireless carriers. In fact, I've heard on a program the other day on C-SPAN, there's talk about a 6G coming in. I have no idea technologically what that is, but that's just these are the iterations of internet services. They're supposed to be faster and offer more services. And again, that I can only say what I read. I have no technical knowledge. But all we're saying is that if it comes to Ringwood, okay, we have some regulatory control. That's all it says. It may never come, or it may not come for 5 or 10 years, or it may be superseded by another G, okay, of technology. So if it comes, they have to come here. Mr. Heck or the manager will review it. He could send it to boards. He could bring in engineering consultants. By the way, they have to reimburse us for our cost and make a determination as to where it's going to go and all the details pertaining to it.
I was under the impression that, correct me if I'm wrong, that you could have said that you opposed it.
Well, then they could, then they have authority, if you read the rules, and they have authority to come in to negotiate with the utilities, to put it on their poles, and on existing devices in the rights of way. What we have is this extra layer of regulatory control, that if they want to do it, we have to see it and approve it.
And the manager's going to make all these approvals?
You weren't at the last 3 or 4 meetings where we talked about it, where I very clearly said I am not a 5G or a wireless professional. As we did with every other application that goes to the board, and professionals are hired in order to determine what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. There's public hearings. There's a process by which you would have to follow. The manager certainly doesn't have the technology or the knowledge to deal with that type of thing. It would have to go before the Board of Adjustment.
Yeah, and will it be brought to this council then?
Well, it would go to whatever board, that's appropriate.
Mhm. But the council does supersede the boards, I think, right? Oversee the boards, appoint the board members and the elected officials here?
I'm not going to get into the breakup of the boards.
Yeah.
They have very different roles. However, when we had an application, I distributed it to all the council members. So the answer is...
And that was last year, right?
Whenever I get it, I distribute it. You distributed it 3 or 4 times this year.
Right,
As a matter of
But I
fact-
mean, the 5G came before the council, council or whatever, a year ago.
No.
No? 2 years ago.
3 years ago, they came to us with
Okay.
a thought. They weren't specifically 5G. They came to us with a thought, and at that point, we didn't have the authority, and we decided that, listen, we need to regulate this in some capacity, so that's when we entered into a contract. No application has ever come forward, and they agreed, and it's only with Verizon, they agreed that they would follow the rules that we set forth in that contract.
Thank you.
Ed Cooner, 351 Cupsaw Drive. I'm part of the CLIA Environmental Committee, and I'm just here to ask, is there a status on the septic pumping ordinance?
We don't have a status of the septic pumping ordinance. We're working on that. I will be talking about some of the other grants this evening for the Highlands Act, Highlands grant. Septic pumping ordinance, as you probably are aware, is something that I thought was very beneficial for the benefit of the lakes, and the health department and myself are continuing down that road. It took a little bit of a backseat to the watershed management grant, but we are moving forward.
Thank you.
You know, could I make a point about 5G? When the lady, when I asked the lady, I said, "Madam, what you want us to do?" It was meant respectfully, because I didn't know what to do, okay? I don't know how you would stop it, to be honest with you. I mean, little Ringwood against these mighty forces. That's why I was asking. It was respectful. I hope you took it that way.
Yeah, no, I wanted to answer it.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Mark.
There was these better progress with everything on here, such as the Historic Society, the open space, and the farming, and Passaic County Farming and Historic Society, Board of Education of New Jersey's Historic Society, farming and open space.
Is there else?
Rich Eversbach, 120 Upper Lakeview Ave. Just a comment on the consent decree. That's really just a legal process. It has nothing to do with what was decided, I don't know how many years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, with OU2. And we're still talking about O'Connor and the groundwater yet, or the impact on our water. And if you read the study, OU3, there is no impact on the groundwater now. So we can repeat over and over and over and over and over the same lines, 100,000 yards or tons of contaminated soil that belongs to us. And everybody agreed on the capping of the 2 mines. So we should get that clear. And what else? That's pretty much it. the way I understand it, and I've looked at this and pretty much, you know, for a while, is that the O'Connor and the decisions that were made were made a couple of years ago. This is just to say we're having a lawsuit from the EPA, and there's agreement already what the remedy is. The remedy was already approved a couple of years ago. So to characterize it any other way is really a mischaracterization, which we see a lot of here today.
Thank you.
Look for a motion.
We have motion.
Venkatol, 24 High Point Lane. The groundwater is contaminated?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Thank you. With the proceedings, there's really one shot to the mic.
Oh, it is?
I announced it.
I never saw that. That's silly. I'll be very quick. The groundwater at the site is contaminated. You can't drill a well up there, that's for darn sure. I know it was tried many years ago here by Mr. Hack to get water up there, but it is contaminated. And again, I just want to ask that the borough begin testing our borough wells more regularly for the contaminants at the site, which are arsenic, benzene, and 1,4-dioxane. It's not enough to test for benzene and arsenic every 3 years, which is what is called for by the Bureau of Safe Drinking Water. And not just test for 1,4-dioxane at all. Just doesn't make any sense.
Thank you.
Seeing no one come forward, move the motion to close public.
Second. Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Okay, old business.
Mr. Klimek, you're going to read the...
Yes,
minutes?
motion to read ordinance 2019-07 by title, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
An ordinance amending Chapter 14, Regulation and Control of the Removal of Trees of the revised ordinance of the Borough of Ringwood, Section 24-8, permit fees. Mr. Mayor, the matter can be open to the public for comment, unless, Mr. Heck, do you want to make a preliminary discussion?
Yeah, I can summarize it. This came from the code official. Previously, the tree ordinance, 1 to 2 trees was no fee, 3 to 10 trees was $50, 11 to 20 trees was $100, 21 to 100 trees was $200. Unfortunately, we don't have many of those, and 101 to 150 was $300. Due to the amount of trees that are coming down, he would like to change the fees. We often have residents call, we have follow-ups, there's a cost associated to the department. So he is requesting 1 through 5 trees is $50 instead of the first 2 free. And then the scale goes from there, 3 to 10, 50, 11 to, 6 to 10, 100, 11 to 20, 200. We don't get those kind of tree permits and so on. So it's really an adjustment of the fees based upon the costs that they have experienced in their department for the number of trees. I think at the last meeting, I talked about the number of tree permits and the number of trees that have been removed. And occasionally he has people replant, occasionally he says no, but the good news is people are getting permits, and but there definitely is a cost, and there's some neighborhood involvement if in fact trees start to come down. So this is the request of the code official.
Does anyone want to get up to speak to this ordinance?
Paula Tedesco, 95 Upper Lakeview. Kind of concerned about this. You know, the trees on my property are huge. And when one of those goes, it costs me thousands of dollars. If I lose one tree, I'm going to pay another $50. You know, we're complaining about costs and taxes and this, that, and the other thing. I really am not happy with that. Thank you.
Seeing nobody, I'll move to close.
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Okay, resolved that ordinance 2019-07 is read by title. Be it and is hereby adopted, and the municipal clerk is directed to publish a copy of notice of passage of same in the official newspaper of the municipality.
Mayor, very briefly, when there's an emergency situation and when there's trees that have to come down, we often waive those fees for those type of situations. But you have people that want to get more light in their backyard, and it creates, or they people that feel that their roof is getting affected by their trees, or there's a whole host of reasons, and it affects the other neighbors, and it requires multiple visits often to go to these sites. And I guess what the code official officer feels is to pass that burden onto the onto the people who are not affected is unreasonable. And a $50 fee to cover some of those costs certainly doesn't cover our time, but it does pay for, or bite into a little bit of the costs. And so that's the reason for the fee. Just like a building permit, you wouldn't want to do away with the building permits and the fees for associated building fees, because it's directly relative to that particular parcel. It's directly relative to that house. And if we don't charge those fees and we don't pay for those departments, then the taxpayers throughout the entire tax base have to pay for those costs. So it's a similar situation with a tree. They're very site-specific.
The theory, the theory of fees is that they're called user fees. They're proportionate to the amount of municipal services that are engaged in reacting to the issue. So you would have the code official going out, looking at the issue, doing paperwork, going out a second when it's done to make sure it's correct. And that's how it's done. As the manager said, for instance, with building inspection fees, the inspectors go out there, they do inspections, they come back, they have to read blueprints, et cetera. So you try to get a fee that is commensurate with the length of the service. So as you said, so the rest of the taxpayers aren't paying that through their general taxes. That's the theory. It's that's the basic theory of fees. Okay.
Is there any way to check how much that fee would be? I mean, I have a tree with a split right up the middle. It has to come down. It's gonna cost $2,000, which is normal for it to happen. But the guy that came out to do the inspection took all 10 minutes to look at the tree, tell me it had to come down, and give me an estimate. I understand that there'll have to be a trip out to somebody's house, but I'm thinking one trip for 10 minutes, maybe $25 to alleviate the costs going up overall.
Well, I mean, the amount of the fee is up to you, but the courts have said there's not a mathematical precision in determining the fee. It's a reasonable it's a reasonable estimate. Now, the way the theory is here was 1 to 5, I believe.
0 to 2 was nothing for a long time, right?
Right, that's what I understand.
Yeah.
But I just want, you're not gonna get it mathematically precise, and reasonable people can differ what it should be, but we
Right.
can't say it'll be $18.14.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay? All right.
But from 0 to 50 is a pretty big jump.
And yours was a clear-cut case where it was a tree that had to
You
come
saw
down.
my tree?
No, based on how you described it. You described the big crack that came down the
Yes,
side.
it does.
Very often, Mike denies the trees, and then they appeal the process, and
Oh, I
there's
see.
another process
Okay.
involved. And the neighbors do get involved, and there's usually not one trip. There's, occasionally if there's a septic system getting installed, well, you have no choice, but those
Mhm.
type of things. But there are often boundary line disputes, there's costs associated with, and if you guys don't want to change the ordinance, this came from the code official, it's okay with me, but we look in each department to try and offset the cost for the actual services that we're providing, and these are one of the ways that we do it, so.
No, I read the adopting provision, so there'd be a motion, a second, any council discussion.
Okay, motion.
I'll move it. Even if you only have one tree, there's still a visit, so it's reasonable to have some form of reimbursement, so I'll move it forward.
What if the tree is threatening somebody else's property and they want it to come down? I hear that all the time.
Yes, me too.
You've heard that before?
Often.
Where a neighbor is insisting that a property take down a tree. is that something then you're?
We don't
forced-
really get involved, we try hard not to get involved
Uh-huh.
in neighbor-to-neighbor disputes, because that's not really our, that's
Right.
that's
You
a
don't
civil
make a
matter.
determination
We don't make a
on the-
determination.
The tree viability?
No, we don't make those kind of determinations.
Okay.
But if in fact, they're gonna do a bunch of trees, then we look at it. But we don't get into the disputes, that's for the civil courts to take care of.
Okay.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Okay, now regarding ordinance 2019-08, a motion to read by title, please.
So moved?
Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Okay, an ordinance authorizing the Borough of Ringgold and the County of Passaic to enter into a lease agreement regarding part of Block 601, Lot 14, located on Peters Mine Road, with Cap Solar Property Corporation 2, Inc., a nonprofit corporation of the state of New Jersey, formed pursuant to NJSA 15A at SEEK for the purpose of generating electrical energy for low and moderate income persons and municipal-owned facilities located within the Borough of Ringwood. Mr. Mayor, this is the second reading, so it can be open to the public unless, Mr. Manager, do you have any comments?
I don't. We've been working with Cap Solar for quite some time about looking for some different properties that solar could be installed on. We looked at many different parcels in the northern end and the Rockland Electric section of town, and this is the parcel that they felt was the best. I think it's good to do something positive, and this could very well help some low and moderate as well as seniors in our community. And you know, they have some hurdles to overcome in the DEP and the Highlands, but I think that this gives them the ability to at least move forward and apply for that grant. And I think their deadline is September 9th to get all their permits in place.
Yes, this is basically a solar farm it'll cover approximately 10 acres. And as the manager said, it's for initially low and moderate income persons, and then senior citizens, and then municipal facilities. I should also state it will cover some other areas of the Rockland area. It'll cover the indigenous community in Mawa, which is right next door to our community. Okay. They will go before the in addition to getting whatever BPU approvals they need, they'll also go before a local board. So the citizens of that area, the residents of that area will have a chance to comment on it, since it'll be next door to them. There's a lease agreement, a very complex lease agreement that will be entered into, setting forth all their obligations in detail. This is, from speaking to these folks, this seems to be a very well-formed entity. They know what they're doing. They're in a contest, though, with other such entities to get state approval, and that's why we have speeded up the process, because they have to get all their ducks in a row so they can get before the appropriate state authorities and get their approvals.
Anyone from the public wish?
How many kilowatts is there a number of kilowatts this is going to produce?
I don't remember off the top of my head how many kilowatts.
And is this the property next to the transfer station or up on a hill?
Is the property adjacent to the transfer station?
Okay. And they're going to clear cut that?
I don't know the details specifically, but.
So the tree
yeah,
orders doesn't apply to that?
They would have to be going before the planning board for that activity.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, a motion?
Motion to close the public portion.
Seeing nobody else? Oh, second.
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Okay, resolved that ordinance 2019-08, as read by title, being is hereby adopted, and the municipal clerk is hereby directed to publish a copy of notice of passage of same in the official newspaper of the municipality. Motion second, any council discussion?
Motion.
I'll make a motion, but I did want to make a comment just in terms of the location, because I've spoken to some, obviously not everyone in the community, but a number of people in the community. And I did want to clarify that the site that was identified does not have, very obvious recreational potential. It doesn't connect to the park. We're not interfering with hiking trails. This is currently part of the Superfund site. And so it's a way of taking something that would ordinarily not be actively used and turned into something positive for the community. And so with that clarification, I'll move it.
All right, any second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
There being no new business, let's move on to resolutions.
Okay, Mayor. Resolution 2019-144, whereas the Chief Financial Officer has certified that funds are available for the payment of the current bill list in the amount of $920,211.22. Supplemental payments in the amount of $2,774,784.59. The merchant services fees in the amount of $123.17. The Alpoa Dam assessment fee in the amount of $24,806.14, to be credited to the following accounts for a total of $3,719,925.12, of which Ringwood Board of Education is receiving $1,647,245, and Lakeland Regional High School is receiving $999,290.42.
How many Alpoa people do we have up here?
Alpoa?
Yeah, you know Alpoa, anybody else?
Yes.
Okay, well,
Robert,
that's,
Yeah, I remember about that.
okay, the dam restoration fee is there, if I can find it now.
How about I separate it?
Yeah, pull that,
separate
pull
out.
that, Scott,
We're
okay?
Resolution 2019-144. I'll just reread this paragraph. The Chief Financial Officer has certified that funds are available for the payment of the current bill list in the amount of $920,211.22. Supplemental payments in the amount of $2,774,784.59. And merchant services fees in the amount of $123.17, to be credited to the following accounts. And I'll do another resolution in a second. So Mayor, we need a motion and a second.
Make the motion.
Second. Anybody?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Abstain.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Do you have another resolution, Nicole?
So it'll be 155.
Resolution 2019-155, whereas the Chief Financial Officer has certified that funds are available for the payment of the Alpoa Dam Assessment Fund in the amount of $24,806.14, as listed below.
Make the motion.
Second?
Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
You'll abstain,
I have to abstain on that? Yes. I'll abstain.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Okay. I have my resolution. Hold on. Okay, Mayor, Resolution 2019-145, be it resolved, the Municipal Council of the Borough of Ringwood, that CME Engineering, East Union Street, Somerset, Pennsylvania, is hereby retained as engineering consultant for the Borough of Ringwood regarding the 2019 extraction license renewal application for Saddle Mountain, LP, Van Orden Sand and Gravel in Ringwood. Be it further resolved, attached to their fee expenses is hereby approved. The fee schedule is attached for
You used it before?
This is the same.
This is
as
Sean
everything's
Isney.
last for a few years.
I'll move that.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, a motion?
Yes, Spear, motion, Bolton, second.
Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
No.
Spear?
Yes.
Resolution 2019-146, whereas the borough requested a proposal for professional services recommendation, Erskine Road, Lakeview Avenue Improvement Project, Part 2, contract number 2018-101. And whereas Schwanweed Halls Engineering has submitted a proposal dated June 28, 2019, which itemizes 3 phases required for the project as follows. Right-of-way and topography surveying, $15,500. Design and contract documents, $15,100. Drilling and supervision, $4,500. Whereas the chief financial officer has certified as to the funds available in the amount of $35,100 from budget line item number 9-01-20-715-228 for contract number 2018-101. And whereas the engineer recommends the award of this contract to Schwanweed Halls Engineering in the amount of $35,100 for the right-of-way and topography survey, design and contract documents, and drilling and supervision. The Borough of Ringwood has received the New Jersey Pay-to-Play and the Ringwood Pay-to-Play documentation. Now therefore be it resolved, Municipal Council of the Borough of Ringwood hereby awards professional services contract for the surveying, design, supervision, and of Erskine Road, Lakeview Avenue Improvement Project Part 2 in total amount of $35,100 to Schwanweed Halls Engineering of Oakland, New Jersey.
And this will be paid for through the grant.
This is paid for the DOT grant.
Okay, I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
2019-147, this is a continuation of that particular project, where a professional services contract was awarded to Schwanweed Halls Engineering for surveying, design, and rock profiling for the Erskine Road, Lakeview Avenue Improvement Project, contract number 2018-101 on August 21st, 2018, in the amount of $32,000. And whereas Schwanweed Halls Engineer has submitted and the Borough Engineer has reviewed and recommends a payment in the amount of $15,000 for invoice number 33649, dated July 2nd, 2019. Now therefore be it resolved, Municipal Council of the Borough of Ringwood hereby approves the payment in the amount of $15,000 to Schwanweed Halls Engineering of Oakland, New Jersey. And this is the same project and also paid for by the DOT grant.
Okay, a motion?
Just to quickly clarify, rock profiling?
Yeah, you do drilling and you profile the rock so that if we're putting drainage in or whatever, we know what kind of rock we're gonna hit before we hit it, so.
Yeah, would that kill us, Underhill?
Yes.
Was Underhill the nightmare? Yes. We learned all this.
Yeah.
Can't get drainage across.
I think of rocks as above.
No, it's
No,
the
like under the pavement.
the ledge under the pavement. We have a motion, Mayor?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
The next resolution, we're hoping we're not gonna need, because we did finally get the tax rate from the county. So we're gonna be running, and we're trying to get these out by Friday, but in the event that something happens with a download or something happens, since we have a council meeting tonight, we would like to pass this resolution deferring the due date for the third quarter taxes, although we really are gonna do everything we can to get them out. Unless there's some catastrophic event, they will be out on Friday, but as a precaution, 2019-148 is a resolution deferring the due date for the third quarter taxes, property taxes. Whereas the overall tax rate of Borough of Ringwood has not been certified as of yet. It actually has, but when this was written, it wasn't. The Borough of Ringwood tax collector will issue the tax bill as soon as possible, and whereas pursuant to NJSA 54:4-66, the third installment 2019 payment shall not be subject to interest until the 25th day calendar day after the date of the final tax bill were mailed by the borough. Now therefore be resolved by the Borough of Ringwood, the County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, that on the 16th day of July 2019, in accordance with the law, the third installment of tax shall not be subject to interest until the 25th calendar day after the due date of tax bills were mailed by the borough. All the third installment tax payments received after that date shall be subject to interest commencing August 1st until the date of the third installment payment is received. We do this often, but because they stalled us a little bit longer this year, it's more important that we have it just in case. And what this does is extend the time by which people have, they're not paying their penalties. So this is actually for the residents, but this doesn't help us collect our taxes. So we are going to do everything we can to get those out by Friday.
And then just to clarify, if they miss the extended date, then the interest is not calculated from the due date, it's calculated from August 1st.
The original date, yeah.
From the original date. And this will go into effect as 25 days after we mail them, so. So maybe I just need a motion and a second.
I'll move it. Second?
Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Mayor, would you like me to do the consent agenda this evening?
Yes, please.
Consent agenda resolution 2019-149. Whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Ringwood has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions. Now therefore be it resolved that the following resolutions on the consent agenda are approved. 2019-149 is the actual consent agenda. 2019-150 are a refund of overpayment taxes for block 205.1 lot 4, $3,000. 2019-151 authorized redemption of a tax sale certificate. 2019-152 authorized municipal lien redemption. 2019-153 authorized refund of overpayment of water account 209881-0 in the amount of $377.01. And 2019-154 is the approval of payroll and payroll transfers for June 2019.
I'll move it.
Second?
Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Mayor, the manager's report, we have just a few things this evening. First, I want to bring, I sent out some information to the attorney as well as all of the council members regarding the Green Team. The Green Team has been struggling a little bit since January in getting a quorum. As you folks all probably remember, the membership of the Green Team is 19 in number, so getting a quorum is often difficult. The Green Team has been meeting, though not meeting those quorums, and so they have sent out a proposal where they would like to alter the membership of the Green Team, and they sent out a proposal to do such a thing, as well as, and in there I've given you a copy of some of the correspondence that we've had back and forth, as well as some of they'd also like to change the date of the meeting. A couple of months ago, or a month ago, they had talked about reaching out to all the folks to find out whether, in fact, they wanted to still serve. Since then, Helen in my office has reached out, and we have gotten some people who want to serve and some people who aren't interested, and some people have some questions and some who have not answered. So I would recommend that in some capacity, we look at the length of membership of the Green Team, because having a membership of 19 is difficult. It's difficult to get any type of quorum there. You need to have 10 before you can have a quorum. All these meetings are sunshine meetings. Though they got a grant for a little bit of money, they're not spending a lot of money, but they are spending taxpayer dollars. So we have to go through that process, and I think that a revisit of this would probably be a good idea.
I just want to be clear, though, that the Green Team is open to every resident of Ringwood, and they can participate in the meeting whether or not they are officially part of the voting core. So we want every resident to be involved, and we invite them all to join us in helping to make a more sustainable and reliant Ringwood going forward. We need this more than ever in these times with 5G, with our lakes being affected. So come down for whatever the new date is for the Green Team meetings on Thursday evenings.
The only thing, what I had suggested to the group was have a core voting member group, but then have as many committees as you want, because the committees aren't what constitutes the quorum. The committees aren't what votes on the bills and the resolutions and whatnot. And since it is formed by resolution of this body, they kind of have to follow those rules. So it would make it easier for them to conform to those rules. We audio tape it just like we're doing all the other ones, so that people can listen to it online. That's going to be all the boards are doing that. Little by little, we're converting them all, because people like to be able to hear it when they go to it. So,
You know, one of the things that I've noticed is that the Green Team comes to almost every meeting and gives an update on what the Green Team is doing. I haven't heard that from any other boards. Is that something we can institute, like quarterly, not every meeting, but maybe quarterly? I haven't heard from the Health Department, the Planning Board, the Board of Adjustments. Maybe they could just give an update at our meeting, because it's hard to get to every one of them, and this way our public will know what they're doing too, because it'll be on Channel 77. Is that something we could request of our
something
boards?
that you folks could request, and that's the reason that I want to put all the audios online, so people can actually listen to the
Right.
meetings at their leisure. And so, getting back to this, so I deferred to Mr. Klimek. The problem that we have is we have people that we have appointed based upon a resolution, and we have approximately, I thought I had a breakdown. It appears of the members, we have about 8 members that are interested in remaining. We have three people that have said that they're not interested. We have 2 or 3 members that have some questions, which I'm going to get back to, and then we have 5 or 6 that haven't responded. So I asked Helen to follow up with the ones that haven't responded, because we certainly, Mr. Klimek, I don't know how, when you appoint somebody, I don't know, it's not within my jurisdiction to deal with that.
Well, they're appointed, you do not, there's various ways to depopulate a committee. Number one, you could abolish it as it exists, okay? It gets totally depopulated. Other than that, if there are members, they can resign, or they can be removed for cause. So you should find out first who wants to stay, and who doesn't want to stay, and see what that number is. It still may be a manageable number. I don't know. If it gets down to you just want 7 members, then what you could do is just abolish the committee as it exists and reconstitute it with the new membership. About a year ago, I think I was asked, I don't know by whom, to prepare an ordinance, which I did submit. I don't think it had any consideration, but I did put some issues in that ordinance, which I have to look at again to see what it was. It set forth the rules of procedure, I believe. It set forth how a chair or vice chair is appointed, that it's subject to the Sunshine Law, subject to Open Public Records Act, so it's totally transparent to the community, how the minutes are approved and how they're transmitted to the council for review and approval. And there may have been some other things in it. But as far as my suggestion would be to see what these other folks want, because if you abolish it this evening, there may be people there who would prefer to remain as members.
There's no reason to abolish it. We know who the members are that aren't interested in serving, and one of the reasons they aren't interested is they've moved. Carol Gardner moved out of state. Louis Bartomeli, his last name, he moved to Butler. I think Ann Zybacker sent in information to Scott this week, letting him know about Jill Berge. She has moved out. Tom Penorfi moved from the Green Team to the Economic Development Commission. So we're pretty on spot with what our members have done.
Well, I think Scott just told me Scott, did you say there are people who are still interested and/or did not respond?
There are about 8 people who said they're interested. There's 3 that said they're not interested. And there's some people who haven't responded or have questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So Helen's following up with those folks, but I wouldn't disband the group until you have another group to, you have a new structure, to put into place.
I mean, if we were to resurface the ordinance so that it's codified like other boards, I would imagine that the group could continue under the resolution, and then we would dissolve it and then adopt the new form in the same meeting.
Yeah, I think what happened was there was some interest on the council to have a green team. So I asked Mr. Klimek to draft an ordinance, and then at the next meeting there was a resolution from the floor, and off we went. So we didn't end up using the resolution, the ordinance that was drafted. But when
We
I
do
look,
have a resolution, though.
yeah, you do have a resolution,
Yes.
came from the floor, and then and then what happened is a couple subsequent resolutions came, which increased the membership, sporadically over the course of, a year. But I think that I certainly wouldn't disband this group until you have something in place to, almost so that they overlay.
As I recall, the resolution was drafted by the borough it didn't come from the floor.
I can't.
I can recall that it was drafted by the borough, and we had a green team previously. There was a green team for 10 years previous to this green team meeting.
It was actually drafted, when I looked in the minutes, it was drafted from the New Jersey, it was just a copy of New Jersey's enabling legislation so that they could use it to be able to get grants. And all that happened was that was presented and that was read into the record that evening. So which is okay, it just isn't working for the
It was a
number.
blend of like our original plus some of the,
Correct.
I'll call it template.
All right, so let's discuss that in further meeting.
I would definitely list it for the August meeting.
Well, I could resuscitate that ordinance and discuss it with anybody who would like to discuss it with me, and add, subtract, do whatever you might think is appropriate.
Sure, there's been a structure submitted by the green team that Scott just pointed out, distributed with the proposed core voting group and the alternatives, and also non-voting members.
In terms of the non-voting members, and this kind of regardless of resolution or ordinance structure, aside from the core group and the alternates, anybody who's not a part of that set body, I think could just be a part of the general volunteer and active community that comes to meetings and participates in committees without being appointed, as opposed to being officially appointed as a non-voting member. That seems like it might be cumbersome. And I guess one of the things that I would want to clarify, and I think this is also how we got to 19, is that anybody who wanted to be a part submitted the citizen leadership form, we appointed them, and then it grew. But if we are going to define the core group and the alternates, and then nobody else beyond that needs to submit a citizen leadership form, they don't need to be appointed, they can just kind of participate in the activities and attend meetings, obviously without voting, but whether they're gonna take a turn manning the farmer's market table, or help write a grant, whatever the case may be, without actually being a voting member, that would also, I think, simplify things.
We just have to make sure that, I'm a little uncomfortable with having meetings where we're deciding and voting on things where we don't have a quorum and we're not really following so I want to make sure that whatever we do, we follow those rules, so that it's open and transparent. And, but yeah, they could absolutely they could participate as a committee as long as the core group has a quorum and they can do what they have to do, so.
Yeah, that's definitely what I meant, was to just only specify the core group as opposed to, I'll call them satellites.
Yep. Yeah, each person may have a different interest. Maybe they want to get involved in the theatrical end, or maybe they want to get into the straw, whatever.
Anything else?
I have a couple other things if you guys are gonna you're gonna list this for August.
Yeah.
And then if we could send the ordinance around.
I think I did once before, but I'll look.
Well, based on discussion today, I'll pull it, make some changes to it, and then I'll send it out for everybody's comment. It's there, it's just a model for discussion, okay? And then you could,
And I could review that list with you, Scott, of the members, and let you know who's moved out of town. And
Yeah, that would be helpful.
That's easy enough to see on the
Yeah.
records that people have moved out of town.
Yeah, Helen, if you know of who's moved out, you
Yeah,
can call
I
Helen.
do.
She's the one that's kind of reaching out. so.
Right, and I can look at this list and tell you right away who has moved and who
I can give you
is
a
still
copy
in
of this,
town.
what we tried to keep track of.
Okay,
so
sure.
I'll send that
me
over
a
to you.
copy of that, please.
We talked a little bit earlier about the consent decree through the public, and the consent decree is actually a document that the government files against all the people that are participating in the Superfund cleanup. And what it really does is says, here's the agreement, here's the governing document, who's gonna be doing what, who's paying for what, who's, and all it is the federal government filing this in court, and then immediately then entering a settlement of that particular thing. They actually file it so that everybody's there's a court document that's transparent that shows exactly what has happened. This really doesn't have anything to do with the decisions that have been made. This is just the enabling legal document that ensures who's going to take care of what and why.
And isn't there a comment period on the consent decree?
I'm going
Yeah?
to get to
Okay,
that.
thank you.
The comment period was just extended recently until, I think, the 29th.
And where can people go to make comment?
They can go right onto the EPA website. They can, some people have sent it to us, but I send them all to the EPA website. There's a couple different places that you can make comments. They extended the comment period to July 29th, 2019, pursuant to the letter that we have from the District Court of Washington, D.C. So the agencies are taking those public comments at this particular point. I think that some of the comments earlier about the consent decree, that we didn't own it and we didn't operate it, that's not really accurate. And the future of Ford, if in fact Ford defaults in any capacity, there's a bond in place that covers those kind of things. We're certainly not taking on the liability. We already have the liability. So there's a couple of things that maybe inaccurate, some of those statements. Also keep in mind that besides having Ford as a partner, we are fortunate to have an insurance companies as partners. So it's not as simple as that. We have DEP and EPA oversight. So that's the consent decree.
Also, can I just ask, update, back in January, perhaps it was February, the Environmental Commission had requested that we do a groundwater feasibility study. I know that you were going to meet with Joanne Atlas to follow up on that. She had been away, but she's been back a few months now. I was wondering if you could give the council an update on where you are on the groundwater feasibility study.
I'm not anywhere on the groundwater feasibility study. I spoke to the individual that she recommended. I got costs for the groundwater study. The groundwater study is continuing going on, and the council didn't fund any of those type of studies in our budget, so I don't have the funding for that. The studies are still going on with the Superfund site as they exist. I'm trying to think of the name of the person who we spoke to, who Joanne Atlas from the Environmental Commission recommended, but I have her card on my desk. I think she's actually a professor at Rutgers. So that's where that is. The studies that are actually going on are being done right now by all the participants in the Superfund site. So for Ringwood to fund a secondary study, we would have to consider that throughout the budget process. So continuing along with with my manager's report, I also want to give a status on the Swanson property. That's the property on Greenwood Lake Turnpike opposite the old Action Auto by where the billboard is per se. Open Space is acquiring that. We have hired the surveyor. That's in the process. We're doing the background environmental, and we hope to close in August, Mr. Cleveland?
Hopefully, if the environmental is completed by then.
Okay, I think the environmental company was there today. I also have a couple other things. Maybe you can see this way. What's that? You need one more? No, we're good. Jim, I'm going to take one of those back, if I could. Unless I have it. Nope, I have it right here. So we talked earlier about the Lakes Grant, and little fallacy about if in fact we started this study, that it would affect the lakes of this year. This study is a study over the course of more than one season of testing. The testing, you need to go through all the seasons and the cycles of a lake in order to determine what recommendations they might have in order to fix that particular algae or whatever is happening with all the lakes. It's not as simple as you test once and then you can say, hey, based upon that recommendation, here's what we suggest you do. It's not really, it doesn't really work like that. So we can start mid-cycle and then you continue the cycle through the next year as long as you get all the life cycles of that particular lake over the course of the year, and you can do this study. So As you folks all know, I hired Princeton Hydro to write a bid spec that was, that encompassed all of our watershed properties and all of the lakes as opposed to just the Cupsaw. Because I felt that if we're gonna really make the decisions on capital investment, or we're gonna look at the nutrient loading, or we're gonna look at the different issues of the lakes, we should look at all of them. And this way, we can, as a council, can make decisions on what capital investments we wanna make on storm drain, or what areas maybe we have to work harder on, maybe some septic management plans and these type of things. So we're really looking at it from a more global perspective. And so he wrote the bid spec. You folks gave me the authorization to hire them to do that, to conduct the studies and do all of the historical data review, the hydrological and pollutant loading analysis, the analysis of the pollutant removal of the watershed techniques, the collection of the water-based watershed water data, quality data, the collection of storm-based watershed water quality data, the collection of the lake-based quality data, which is optional, which I put in, and the general watershed assessment report. Total of all of these costs is $87,100. And I think that this will cover Cupsaw Lake, both Erskine Lakes, both Skyline Lakes, and Lake Wakanda. I met with the lake associations in each particular lake. They are all interested in participating with us and giving us access to the lake so that we can test the water at some of the, wherever Princeton Hydro thinks is the best for these studies.
Doesn't this kind of?
I'm just gonna finish if I could.
Okay.
I've also been talking to the Highlands study, the Highlands Council, while I've been doing this, so that, you know, I'm keeping them in the loop, because the reality is, the funding needs to come from somewhere. Even though we are going to be initially funding this, we have to actually pay for it, and then we get reimbursed. I've been working with the Highlands Council to try and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. They're actually, this is the first private-public partnership. They're excited. I sent them the documents. And I'm going to read you the letter I sent to the Highlands, Carrie Green. Thank you for assisting me over the last few months, and also the allocation of funds for the lake study for Cupsaw Lake. However, I would like to expand the study to include more private recreational lakes in our community. I believe it would be beneficial for Ringwood to study the watershed in all of these areas and take an active role in the management of the surrounding watersheds that drain into the lakes. With this in mind, I engaged the services of Princeton Hydro to identify the needs and outline the specifications for the water testing. As outlined in the attached proposal, these lakes are Erskine Lake Upper and Lower, Cupsaw Lake, Skyline Lakes Upper and Lower, and Lake Wakanda, which are all included in the study. I believe this study will give us a greater understanding of where our focus should be with regard to stormwater management and capital improvements. My request is to increase the grant funding for a more complete study. The total cost as outlined in the proposal is $87,100. Additionally, the borough has expended $4,425 for the cost of preparing the specifications. Respectfully, I request a total of $91,525. There will also be some internal review costs associated with the project, which we may need to capture as the project progresses. I thank you for your efforts in helping the water quality of Ringwood, and look forward to your response. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. I heard from them today, and I'm happy to report. Scott, the Highlands Council has received your request for the grant funding for the watershed-based assessment of the lakes of the Borough of Ringwood, and has forwarded to the Grants Committee and the Executive Director for approval. It is the intention is to fund the grant as requested from the existing plan conformance funds previously encumbered in your existing grant agreement, last revised by the Borough of Ringwood and Highlands Council in November 2017. The expectation is that this request will be approved shortly, and that the borough will receive the official notification in a letter being drafted in this office. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me. So I received that today. She couldn't actually send me a formal approval, but I said I'm meeting with the council tonight. I really would like to propose this to them. I've been kind of pushing this along. We've come a long way from where we were a couple months ago. So what I would recommend is that, based upon all the conversations we've had, I'm very confident that they are going to fund this program, though they have to go through a couple, obviously, internal reviews. I would like to move forward, since we have to pay for this anyway and get reimbursed, and I would recommend that we do so subject to the receipt of a notification of approval of the grant, even though the funds will come much after. I think that this would be beneficial. there was an earlier question about how can the people vote on the entire town. Mr. Klimek can address that question more so than myself. But I drafted a resolution for your consideration this evening, which Mr. Klimek has, which I hope you made some edits to, for the council's consideration for hiring the Princeton Hydro Group to start the process.
Scott, is this basically the water quality monitoring that the Highlands Council offers that looks at streams, lakes, rivers, and groundwater?
It's not exactly the same. Princeton Hydro created a program that they think would be beneficial, knowing the lakes in town. This was actually created by Princeton Hydro. It's going to be different levels of the lake, high level, low level, so they can get a better idea of what's going on, as well as the streams coming into the lake. There's going to be a total analysis. So it's not exactly the same. Actually, they're going to use this as a model for other communities. They're happy to see it.
I would like to invite Kerry Green, who you just wrote the letter to come to our August meeting and clarify some misunderstanding of how the Highlands Council acts and how it can benefit our community. I've heard things that the Highlands Council isn't here to protect our lakes. They're here to protect all the water in the Highlands, and last time I looked, our lakes are full of water. Also, doing this grant shouldn't preclude the lakes from pursuing a lake management grant on their own. Every year, the state gives millions of dollars to the Highlands Council to help communities that are located in the Highlands. Actually, other towns have lobbied to get into the Highlands so that they can take advantage of this money. It's great that we're moving forward to do this, and I'm enthusiastic about it. However, I would appreciate Kerry coming here and explaining how the Highlands Council works, because I think there is some misconception within the community of how we can partner with them in so many ways, not just for our lakes, but for economic development, for septic management. There are a number of resources that they can assist us with, and I think having her here would really help clarify for the public and also for the members of the council who sometimes misunderstand their mission.
Well, as you know, I was working on the Highlands, working with Kerry Green on the Highlands grant for the septic management plan. And while they do fund studies, they don't fund action. They don't fund, they won't fund the computer program to run it. They won't fund private lakes need to go through us in order to get grants.
Right.
So the Borough of Ringwood has to
support it.
actually has to, no, we don't have to support it. We have to actually be the grant recipient, and then we get reimbursed. So yeah, we can certainly have her come in and talk.
That's great.
That's up to you folks, whether you want to do that. But for tonight's, what I'd like to do is, for consideration this evening, is to take an action to try and start the lake process. Again, no matter what program you did, whether you started it in May of this year, whether you started it in August of this year, it takes a full cycle before you can get any kind of results from this type of program.
So you're looking for a motion to?
Well, Mr. Klimek is.
Well, before you do
always
that,
formulating
yes,
something?
yes. I think we have four lake members on the council. We have four, is it five?
We have
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe.
every member. It's a doctrine of necessity.
Yes,
I mean,
okay. There's a rule called the rule of necessity that in a governing body, if everyone has a conflict of interest, or a majority have a conflict of interest, that in effect would vitiate a quorum, and therefore business could not be done. So all the persons have to do is to identify themselves, that they are a member of an association or group that would benefit by this study, okay? That just gets on the record, and then by the rule of necessity, everybody can vote on it. So there'll be a record as to why these persons, even though they live in the communities specifically affected by this grant, voted, and there's a legal opinion on the record, namely my legal opinion on the rule of necessity, that under the circumstances, everybody can vote on it, okay?
Well, also, the rewording of this particular grant application is the town is undertaking the studies of the water affecting these lakes as part of the watershed review. So it's.
I want to be very clear. We're not taking over the management of lakes, and we're not doing what that other proposal was. That other proposal had to do with very specific lake management, had very specific tasks in a specific lake. What we're looking at is We're looking at a watershed plan where we're looking at all the watershed, and we've asked the lakes if they would allow us permission to go onto their lake so that we can test it. This is a slightly different program, because we're gonna start it at the source rather than at the receiving end. The lakes can only test in the lakes. We're gonna test other sources. So this is not a specific lake management program, so I don't even know that this would even need, doesn't matter what lake you're part of, this is a Borough of Ringwood watershed management plan
Right.
that tests the lake. So Mr. Klimek, I don't think that that it's even necessary to identify who's a member of what lake, because we're doing this for our water management, watershed management.
Well, it's, as a safety precaution, it's on the record.
Okay.
In the event that there's some issue later on, it does refer to specific lakes, at least in this memorandum. So out of an abundance of caution, you have my opinion for the record, okay?
So definitely say that I think this is fantastic. Obviously, I haven't read through all the pages, but there's a lot here. It touches upon a lot of the key areas that should position us for, knock on wood, ongoing success. And also for everyone who doesn't have a copy in front of them, it went through 3 rounds of revision over 3 different months. So this was a lengthy process, and I appreciate all the effort that went into it. I would, whether August is the right month or September, knowing that whatever programs or opportunities there are to take advantage of from the Highlands Council, that I'm going to assume the majority, if not all of them, are reimbursement grants. So if we could have Kerry or honestly anybody from the council come and provide essentially the dog and pony show. What's the overview of everything they can do for us? What can we take advantage of that we're not, so that we can factor that into our budget planning for next year, and have a little bit of a roadmap. So I'd be, whether it's August, September, I'd love to have them come down, and once
they'd
you read
love
the
to come
resolution,
down.
would love to move this one forward.
So you're making a resolution to move for
I think
them
that-
to come?
I think that's just an agenda request.
That's just the mayor just handles that agenda request. so-
Okay.
But for this, I mean, once we have the resolution, I think it's great to move this forward.
Okay. So what's next step?
I need a
I
second.
think Dick has to read it out.
Was this resolution been moved?
Oh, I'm sorry. Why don't you read it, Mr. Klimek? I'm sorry. We had a lot to talk about it. We didn't read it.
Okay, all right. Scott prepared this, so this is not my magnificent professional eloquence, okay? All right?
Throw 'em under the bus.
So is
How's
it a better resolution?
Whereas Princeton Hydro LLC has submitted a proposal for watershed-based assessment of lakes and watershed of the Borough of Ringwood, Passaic County, New Jersey, in the amount of $87,100. And whereas the borough managers applied for reimbursable Highlands grant in the amount of $91,525, which would include the cost of the watershed-based assessment of the lakes and watershed areas, as well as the costs incurred in developing the specifications. Whereas it is the intention of the Highlands Council to fund the grant request submitted by the borough manager. Now therefore be resolved that the municipal council hereby authorizes the borough manager to execute the proposed water-based assessment of the lakes of the Borough of Ringwood. But I've got to add my 2 cents. I can't
Go
let
ahead.
that go.
I would
Okay?
hope you would.
All right, okay. The payments under which contract are subject to the award of grant by the Highlands Council.
Meaning that we would not contract until the
It
grant's
won't be
awarded.
effective until they sign on the dotted line, right?
But not until the funds received, because obviously the funds received much after.
And they're paid directly to Princeton Hydro
No,
when they
they're
come
paid
in,
to-
is what I was told by the
No,
Highlands
they're paid to,
Council.
we pay the bills and then they reimburse us.
Pretty much at the same time.
We'll see. I don't know. It comes out of Treasury, so.
We'll see, but that's how they explain it. That's why it's so important that we have the Highlands Council here to explain it.
Motion?
So is that ready to move? Because I'll move it.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Resident of Cupsaw, and yes.
Resident Skylar.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Resident and member of Erskine Lake, yes.
O'Keefe?
Resident of Cupsaw Lake and member, yes.
Spear?
Member of Skyline Lakes Property Owners Association and voting yes.
Mayor, that's all I have for this evening. Oh, that's not all I have one left. Sorry, I was taking care of my mother who had some procedures done today, so I'm not as sharp as I normally am. Although I will add, she is, so.
That's important. Good.
Yeah, we have a resolution for paying one of our contractors, and I believe this is for Jenkins Park. This is resolution 2019.
157.
What's that?
157.
157. This didn't make it on the bill list. Be it resolved, the municipal council of the Borough of Ringwood hereby authorizes the payment to RM Tuitt Paving and Trucking LLC of Ringwood, New Jersey, in an amount of $5,900 to be credited to the account 90126765224 for Jenkins Park paving. We paved inside the park where we put the gazebo and the new playground and-
Looks good.
and whatnot, so I'd like to get that contractor paid.
Okay, motion?
I'll move it. Second.
Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
And that park does look really sharp.
Coming along. The picnic egg is going in tomorrow, and then it should be pretty much wrapped up.
Okay.
So now I have nothing else, Mayor.
Turn.
No report.
Okay. We have a second general public portion. Anyone want to get up? Limited to 3 minutes. State your name and address.
Jennifer Shu, 205 Lakeview Avenue. Scott, thank you for bringing up the green team. I just wanted to make a couple comments about that. Attending the meeting since January, our proposal reflects the fact that we really never had a quorum from that time. The people that are listed under the core voting group are the people that do come to meetings. And they represent the people that consistently come to meetings. The alternates, and this was people who volunteered to be alternates, they volunteered to be alternates because they have not been coming consistently. They want to get more involved, but they weren't sure as yet as what their commitment would be. But they aren't planning on being more involved. And those individuals that elected to be just attending meetings but not voting members are people that felt that they could not make a commitment to come to all the meetings, but they wanted to come when certain issues came up that they were interested in. So it really did reflect a consensus of the group that have been coming to all the meetings. So I strongly urge you to consider our proposal because I think it would be a workable proposal.
I sent him your May correspondence that had all the dates and who attended. So that's in their packet.
Oh, okay, good, thank you. I know you've been very busy writing an excellent grant, so I understand, but I wanted to ask if there had been any movement on the electric charging stations.
Haven't done anything on electric charging station. I do have an intern focused on the energy audit, and I'm hopeful that in the next couple days we will have wrapped that up so that we can move on to the next step.
One of our Green Team members who writes grants has volunteered to help if you want assistance on the pay to plug in
Have that
proposal.
person contact me. We generally take assistance.
Okay, so I'll have her do that.
Great.
Thank you so much.
I think the library is the best place for that. The park and ride.
I think the municipal center would be a good place for a charging station also, if we want to replace one of our fleet with an electric vehicle.
Yeah, we already have the power in the back from when we had the Mini Coopers.
Oh, you still have the charging station? Okay.
Hi, Paula Tedesco, 95 Upper Lakeview Avenue. I'm the chair of the Stigma Free Task Force, and I just wanted to remind people that we're having a meeting this coming Thursday, 7 o'clock in the courthouse, and we're planning for events for the fall. And we're very excited because we're beginning to partner with the schools, so this is something we've been trying to do for quite a while. Thank you. Everyone's invited, and please come and participate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I allowed? Nicotal, 24 High Point Lane. The consent decree sets in stone all the decisions that have been made at the borough level by Ford, the borough, and accepted by the EPA. So any change in that is a legal action by the government, federal government. Mr. Klimak, as the attorney for the borough, you have the obligation, this is with all due respect, have the obligation to see that the council follows the open public meeting law. And I think you have fallen down on that obligation. In April and again in June, my Oprah denial complaint against the borough has been listed as an executive session item. I asked in April if this could be discussed in open session, and you asked Mr. Heck if it was possible, and he said no. I don't think that that was his decision to make, especially since there was nothing to discuss. I told you that I had not received any information regarding my complaint since early 2018. My complaint was made in early 2018. And you thought that that was funny, since you said the borough had, which turned out to not to be true.
Excuse me, I thought something was funny, I said that?
You seem,
Was that your impression?
That was my impression.
Okay, thank you.
That was my
All right.
impression, yes.
Because I think most people up here don't think that I responded in a funny manner to citizens and their requests.
That was my impression, I'll take that. There had been no communication between the Government Records Council, or the GRC, and the borough since March 2018. In June, when my complaint was listed under executive session again, my husband read a statement for me as I was out of town, explaining that there still had been no communication between the Government Records Council and the borough, myself, and Ms. Hallowitz, who are part of the complaint. Just let me reiterate, the complaint is because my Oprah request was denied, and my request was to see the emails between the borough and the EPA regarding the Superfund site, which is a huge issue in Ringwood. And actually, I think probably I could have come down and read them on the computer if I could have been allowed, because these are public emails, and the computers are public. They're owned by the taxpayers. But anyway, I was working with Ms. Hallowitz at the time, who was helping me. And Mr. Heck stopped it all and said that I could not receive the emails unless I paid $800. So I complained. Mr. Heck stated he disagreed with my husband's statement, and then Mr. Caruso, director of the GRC, said that my complaint would be heard in August. His assertion was not true. On 3 occasions, I have contacted the Government Records Council, and on 3 occasions, I have been told that the complaint has not been adjudicated. Mr. Caruso confirmed this when I spoke to him in June, as did Samuel Rizzotto, the GRC staff attorney. Mr. Klimak, you received an email from Mr. Rizzotto on June 19th explaining that this complaint is still pending adjudication. I have a copy of this email for the council members.
I'd like to see that email. I don't recall.
I have it with me.
I'd like to see that email.
Okay,
because I don't recall receiving it.
Okay, well, you're on it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have it for you. I'll hand it out when I'm done. I would like this email that I'm going to be distributing included in the minutes, please.
We'll determine what gets included in the minutes.
Right, I know that. I understand that very, very well. They're whitewashed. Mr. Caruso told me he never would have told Mr. Heck that the case was being heard in August. He explained that there are over 4,000 statewide complaints. The GRC is working on complaints filed in late 2017. When my Oprah denial complaint is about to be adjudicated, all the parties, Mr. Klimak, myself, Ms. Hallowitz, will receive notification a week before the case is scheduled. That has not happened. And I want to hear what transpired in closed session after I was listed on the executive session. Oops, I don't need it anymore. So, as you know, Mr. Klimak, there are only 12 matters that are allowed by law to be discussed in closed session. I don't think I have to go through them because I think you know what they are. And this situation, a complaint to the Government Records Council, which is set up for the public to complain if their Oprah request is denied, and it'll be adjudicated. Maybe they'll, decide the borough is right. I don't know. Maybe they'll decide I'm right, or maybe there'll be some kind of compromise. But it's not litigation. I'm not suing the borough, So this complaint does not fall in any of the categories, which there are 12, and only 12 that can be discussed in closed session. I'm almost done. Mr. Klimak, as long as I have known or worked with Mr. Heck, it has been obvious to me and many others that he has a tenuous relationship with the truth.
That's me, I have a tenuous relationship?
No.
Oh,
Mr. Heck does.
oh, okay.
I don't know
I
why.
want to be sure who you're insulting, that's all.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm not insulting anybody.
No, it's not insulting.
I am telling the truth.
Thank you.
You're insulting me by putting me as a litigation matter in executive session.
Okay, your time is-
Okay, let me.
All
let
right,
me
wait a minute, I'm not
you're
done. I have one more line. I don't know why you as an attorney do not rein Mr. Heck in. For the sake of your own reputation, you should start.
Thank you.
Okay. Here are the emails. And one short, because I thought you had it already, since your name is on it.
Thank you.
Just two of them here.
Yeah, we can share.
Two of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could respond to this. First of all,
Excuse me. Get a motion to close public.
wait, let me respond though, while it's still
Okay.
in the air. Okay, thank you. All right. Mrs. Tall filed a
Ms.
complaint, filed a complaint with the Government Records Council. That's an administrative body. That is litigation. However, she may not agree with it, but it is. What she is seeking, she may not even know what she's seeking. She's seeking an adjudication that the borough has to turn over thousands and thousands of pages of emails, reports, et cetera, that are associated with them to her without charge, okay? Now, maybe she's right and maybe she's wrong. The borough's taken the position, when I said the borough, the municipal clerk at the time took the position that there has to be a charge, a service charge for all that work. That's what's in dispute, okay? Secondly, although Ms. Tall may not even be aware of it, if she prevails in the case, the municipal clerk is subject to a fine of up to $5,000 for making an erroneous judgment, which cannot be reimbursed, okay? So there's a damages issue here, there's a punitive issue here, and there's personal responsibility here. This is litigation. This is before an administrative body. She may not agree it's litigation, but it is. And under the Open Public Meeting Act, the council can go into executive session to discuss litigation matters. Now, let me tell you this other issue. What she's saying here is that somebody said that the case was coming up on a certain date or another date, and there's emails back and forth. By the way, I did one thing in this case. I filed an answer on behalf of the borough about 1.5 years ago. I have made no effort to find out when this case will be adjudicated. I have contacted nobody about it. And the reason I don't, as a lawyer, I have so many cases in the pipeline that when it comes up, I will be notified, and I will then take action. I don't jump ahead and call up judges or administrative bodies, et cetera, and saying, can you tell me when my case is coming up? I will get due notice and handle it. Apparently, maybe Mr. Heck has contacted the GRC, maybe Ms. Hall contacted the GRC. I didn't contact the GRC, because I have so many cases as attorney in the pipeline that I'll just wait until they come up. Okay, then I react to them. Now here's something, she is correct, here's a letter email to her, and I was carbon copied, at least on this, I don't recall getting. It says, Dear Ms. Toll, the matter is still pending adjudication. There have been no ex parte communications between the Government Records Council and the custodian regarding the same. Ex parte means we as lawyer and Kelly, we didn't contact the GRC about anything. We submitted, excuse me, we submitted our legal papers They're on file, they're with the GRC, and we're waiting for dates. Either they want conferences, do they want more information, do they want a hearing, do they want to send this to administrative law judge? We're waiting. This seems to me like it's just a useless debate. I don't know why we're debating, but who asked the GRC when the case will come up? Well, I didn't, and maybe other people did it. They're free to argue it all they want. But you'll see it says there's no ex parte communication. Ex parte means without the other person around. It means on your own part, okay? This is an argument about nothing, in my opinion. It does not go to the merits of the case, okay? You're talking about when will the case be adjudicated. I don't know. No one told me it would be in August. Nobody told me it would be this year. Nobody told me anything, okay? And I didn't inquire because I know they're jammed. I know they're understaffed, and it's going to take a long time. That's bottom line as far as I'm concerned. Who else may have contacted GRC? You folks can discuss that, okay? Because this is just, I hate to sound arrogant. It's just too trivial, too petty to talk about who contacted someone and asked when the case was coming up. It'll come up when the GRC so declares it will come up. Now, as far as this litigation, this is absolutely litigation. And litigation authorizes municipal council and any municipal body to discuss matters in executive session. Okay? That's the sum and substance of it. That's legally correct. If Ms. Tolley thinks that I'm wrong legally, she can take whatever action she deems fit. Thank you.
Mr. Klimek, may I add a few things quick?
Yes.
First of all, this is a legal document. It's Venkatall versus the Borough of Ringwood, GRC complaint number 2018-9. The document's right here. In terms of the Oprah itself, back in 2009, I think where she said she was denied access. The last paragraph of the email says, I have not reviewed all of these emails. This is from me to Kelly Hallowitz. I have not reviewed all these emails yet. And while I expect most, if not all, will be available to the public, it's still my responsibility to review them to ensure that I'm not violating any confidentially as outlined in Oprah law.
Mr. Heck, you know, what we're doing here, we're not adjudicating the case here.
One more thing I'm
But
going to add.
all that's on the record. It's for the Government Record Council to decide who was right and who was wrong. Okay.
Mr. Caruso, while I was on vacation, contacted my office on April 11th. Spoke to Helen Forza. I keep notes of who calls and when. I returned his call at 2:10 the next day. I returned his call on the 16th at 10:54. He will call me back. He called me back, told me about case number 2008 on 4/18, and he says the case should be heard in August of this year. End of discussion.
Well, it seems that Peter Sando, 24 High Point Lane, seems there seems to be a misunderstanding between you and the gentleman, and I maintain that you're telling me that there's nothing happening. Why do you keep listing her name as a litigant if there's nothing to talk about at this point in time? You're just like dragging her through the mud because she's a critic of a lot of things that you do, and that's all it is. It's just like it's political, you know, and I don't want to see that again until something actually happens. And it was stated that the matter is active, and you're saying that as far as you're concerned, there's no activity on it.
No, it's an active case, but it has not been presented for adjudication to the council.
So what do you have to talk about in executive session? And that's what she's asking you. Why? What are you talking about?
The status update to the council.
Status update is just what you just said. The status update is nothing's happening.
There was a little more explanation, but I'm not going.
Well, what is it?
I'm not going into the executive session, and I'm not going to adjudicate the case here. You put your position in the case on the record, and we put our position on the record in the case, and the GRC will get to it.
What she has asked for is important stuff, and it should be in the daylight.
Venkatall, 24 High Point Lane. I spoke to Mr. Caruso. He never said that. Never. They're working on complaints in 2017. This complaint is 2018. Everything you said tonight, Mr. Klimek, I agree with. Everything.
That's a good way to end the evening.
Yeah, except I don't want to see my name on executive session until you have something to talk about. That's the only reason I'm here.
This is a turning point.
Yeah, no, you and I have always had a good relationship.
Yes. So there's other people here too. Glad to see that.
Not to change the subject. Paul Rubacki, 99 Edward Drive. A couple things. Got a notice about traffic disruption in Wayne. They're milling and repaving Hamburg Turnpike down there. Wondering when they're going to be able to do anything up here about 511, or we're going to have, the county's going to put us through another winter of hell. Scott sighs.
You want me to respond or wait until everybody's done? We don't need to be there.
But whatever you want, I'll finish. Okay. I noticed in the resolutions, 2 of the council members abstained on bills, no reason. I think it's kind of, you know, interesting. You abstained on the Saddle River resolution, I believe. Councilman Ferretti
I didn't
abstained.
abstain on anything
No,
tonight.
Okay.
2 of them abstained on a particular payment on the Skyline Lakes Dam project.
Okay, I thought, maybe I just heard wrong. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's
I thought-
okay.
Okay. The other thing is, been thinking about this, haven't made a chance to get up here about it. Memorial Day. I guess the town does a Memorial Day thing before the council meeting, the Tuesday before, or the meeting before Memorial Day. And I mean, I think that's kind of, I think it's wrong. It's, you know, Memorial Day is to basically honor the servicemen who gave their lives in combat. And instead of, I really think we need to do it on Memorial Day. You know, myself, my family, we go to Wanacue has a service on Concord Road. There's 7, you know, it's hosted by the VFW, which has members from both communities. It's by a cemetery that has a lot of family members from both communities. And I really would, you know, like to see if the borough would join with Wanacue next year and have something there. I'll be honest, if we double the attendance, it's not gonna hit 100. But I think it's important to get more people there. It's a great turnout from the Wanacue Police Department. Sheriff's Department sends people there, but it would be really, you know, part of the problem with Wanacue is people are all lining up for the parade, so they can't come to the main event. The main event is to honor the service people. So it would, you know, really be good if we can look at pulling everything together. I think if we make it a little bigger, you know, we have an opportunity to draw more county or, you know, our assembly people or state senator. But, you know, it's an idea for the future, and I really would, you know, like to see more people there. My father was a World War II vet, so, you know, it's important. I think honoring our military, everybody talks about it. People wear, you know, put bumper stickers and stuff like that, but spend 30 minutes, you know, and I think it makes it a lot more meaningful. Thank you.
Hi, Jim Martin, 46 Marshall Road. In response to what he was just talking about, I just wanted to say, I think that the Memorial Day ceremony that you had out here was incredibly thoughtful. It was very moving, and it's what Memorial Day was about. Memorial Day is not about having hot dogs and beer and a party in your backyard. It's about honoring the people that gave the ultimate sacrifice. There were people there that their relatives did. There was one gentleman that he lost almost his entire company in one afternoon in a matter of an hour. That's what Memorial Day is. We don't need to create parades. We don't need to partner with other towns. I think it was done extremely well here.
Herb Allen, 43 Seminole Drive. I've heard, could be rumors that we're going to go to shared services for our police department. I'm a little concerned. Ringwood is #1 in Passaic County, and we're 4th in the state as far as safety goes. And compared to Wanacue, who has a larger force, we have a smaller force, a lot more area to cover. I think they do a hell of a job for our town. and I'm very concerned about the safety of the people in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rich Evers Park, 120 Upper Lakeview Ave. And I was at that service too, and I gotta say, it was a pretty good service, and I think the point was made, you know, I have to agree with there that it was, yeah, it's important. The question I have is, I have a couple of questions actually, if I can get to it. So, with the green team, what is the funding? Where does the funding originate for that?
There is no funding from the municipality for the Green Team. The
State?
only funding that we received was from PSE&G. It was a $2,000 grant with specific actions that we had to take, which we're following to the T.
All right, because I thought I heard taxpayer funding, but.
No, it's
I
a
was just curious.
PSE&G grant. It is not from the municipality. There is no municipal funding of
Okay.
this team.
But once the grant comes, it's the taxpayer, so it's not taxpayer
Yeah, I know, I
dollars,
just
but the
never
grant
understood
comes to the
it.
town, so
Yeah.
that's the taxpayers.
And, Councilwoman O'Keefe, you have mentioned a couple of times about doing something with the addiction center.
I've asked what the status is on the addiction center. They purchased that property in 2015, I believe it was, for $6.5 million. They started tearing buildings down. They put up this unsightly grid up there.
I understand, I
Yeah.
understand the history, I'm just asking you, what would be the mechanism? And I wouldn't suggest that I'm supporting getting involved with taking over that property, but I think you said that, and I'm just wondering what would be
I
the
just want an
mechanism?
update on why, first of all, everything stopped. Now I understand that they say they're selling the property for $20 million. That's been in the news. I find that hard to believe since they paid $6.5 million for it. We've reduced their taxes 3 times since they've been up there because we've devalued that property. They say it's now worth $20 million and they're in the process of selling it. I think our mayor has more information on who that transaction is with. I have not received any further information on who's purchasing it.
All right, so
But
we're
I
not
think they're getting
actively-
a bad deal at $20 million.
We're not actively looking to get into the property
No, I'm
management
just looking
business.
to make sure that it doesn't remain eyesore for this community for decades to come. It's already been almost 5 years.
Okay. That's it, thanks.
You're welcome.
Oh, actually, I have one more question.
Okay.
What was on the, so did any of you guys cut down trees before you passed that tree resolution tonight? Did anybody got cut down trees ahead of time? I'm just asking, because we've seen that.
Motion to close.
Seeing no one, I'll move to close.
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Members of the council? Rob, there you go.
I don't have much for tonight, same as last meeting relative to watching out for the kids on the bikes. See it every day. A couple of kids on bikes veering into the road in front of my car and others. Please be careful around the lakes with the kids on the bikes. And be mindful of others with your aerosol sunscreen.
Oh, yeah, right? Yeah, I want to thank Paul Tedesco for bringing it to the council's attention that it is Lake Appreciation Month. The news hasn't been good in the papers. Algae blooms have hit 3 lakes in our state. It hit Greenwood Lake today. They're closed down, their boat races are canceled, there's no swimming, there's no boating. It's really important that we all take responsibility for the lakes. I know at the last meeting, Scott said that he believes a lot of the algae problems that we're having come from man-made septic systems. It's true, our septic systems have impact on our lakes, and we are a community of lakes, streams, and reservoirs, and it's important to our residents' health and to the environment to ensure clean water. You can do this. I know a lot of people move from Bergen County, they come up to Ringwood, and they're not familiar with how to take care of a septic. It's important that we pump regularly our septic systems, because weakened systems release nutrient and bacteria into the storm drains and into the creeks and the water that goes into our lakes. I know that Scott said he's working with the health department to work on a septic grant, because the Highlands Council does offer a septic management and wastewater. Just be aware that everything you do on land does affect our lakes, and with the increased precipitation that we're having, make sure you're maintaining your septic systems, you're pumping them regularly. It's for the health and well-being of all our residents, no matter what lake you belong to.
Or even if you don't belong to a lake.
Right.
What's that? So I missed the last meeting due to a family obligation, but I was happy to hear about the charging station program. And it's great that we still have the hookup, which would position us to take advantage of an electric vehicle for the municipality. In terms of the plan going forward, if somebody's able to help, at least in my reading of the grants, it seems that, again, they are reimbursement based, and that we would get 100% for anything cited on municipal property, and 70 or 80% if it was private but open to the public. And I mention that because for, I'm gonna say the majority of us who don't have electric cars, what gets missed is what I'll call the halo effect. Because, you know, obviously, if you're an electric vehicle owner, you can charge it at home and drive and then charge when you come back. But when you're out on the road, at least some of the models, such as Teslas, will use the placement of charging stations in the routing between where you are and your destination, tell you when to stop and charge, as well as for how long. So situated where we are with weekenders, people heading to Warwick, etc., if we were quite literally on the map as part of that, so whether coming or going, we would have people who would stop with their vehicles, spend half an hour, and nobody just sits in their car when it's charged. You always go get a cup of coffee, do something. So park and ride is a great area, but if we have the EDC or Green Team reach out to some of the landlords, see if they might be open to having it there can be a halo effect, and I think that it would be a great thing to include as part of our 2020 planning for budget purposes. And then for the, I'll call them the municipal setup, if what we have is still operational and we wouldn't have to do anything, then that's great, because paving the parking lot, that made me nervous, because there was something to juggle from a timing standpoint. Regarding the GRC, and I think I can safely stay within bounds of executive session to say that we did talk about stuff. So not everything is dependent upon getting a status update or having a date set by the Government Records Council. But there was actual discussion, things had to be talked about. So there was stuff, it wasn't just an empty agenda item. Regarding Memorial Day, I definitely see Paul's point around the benefit of having greater attendance. The one thing that we should clarify is that by not, I'll say, competing for Memorial Day, you know, we did have assemblymen off there, we did have county representatives, we did have a lot of veteran organizations present, and it wasn't quick, it was thoughtful, and it was nice, and as Jim said, it was moving, so it's not like a quick prayer in the parking lot and then run into the council meeting. It is a poetry contest, and the readers win. It was nice, and I agree it would be great to get more people to that for sure. So we can definitely look at scheduling, but I didn't want to think anybody who hadn't had the opportunity to come to think that it was just sort of a quick thing. That's it. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, a couple things. Someone stated earlier that the consent decree somehow, regarding the Superfund site, and the consent decree somehow increases borough liability. Absolutely not true. The borough's liability is established by what occurred back in the times when the dumping happened. The terms when you talk about liability, think about joint and several liability. That's between us and Ford, where everybody is liable to pay their part, or the whole thing. EPA doesn't really care. But bigger than that is the strict liability aspects. When you own the property, it's a strict liability. By virtue of owning it, you are liable. Done. They don't need any more findings or anything else. And there's like 5 different ways you can gain Superfund liability: you can transporter, arranger, et cetera, and so forth. So thinking that this consent decree increases the borough liability, actually what it does is it gives us a sense of where the borough's financial exposure is going forward, which was always the goal. We always had to know how are the taxpayers on the hook. We get this done, and we have a good sense that the taxpayers are taken care of. There was discussion about conflicts. An example was now we have a grant application for a grant that will cover 4 lakes. Doctrine of necessity, as Counselor told us there. Electric car charging stations. If you own an electric car and you're sitting on the council, maybe it might be a nice thing to abstain. I don't know if it's necessarily required. I think it would be just a good neighborly type of thing to abstain from something that particularly benefits you. Right now, electric cars aren't that popular. There's a small population with them. You would think that you would just simply, let the other council members, take the vote on that, and you would abstain from that, just so you're not seen or perceived as trying to help yourself here and getting your car charged. It seems like a simple and neighborly thing to do. Compare that to what happened at the April meeting, where from the floor a speaker.
Councilman, I think there's a matter pending in Trenton on this issue. I don't think it should be discussed at this time.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. It's pending. I've seen the documents.
And I'd like
Very
to
well.
speak to that, for what Mr. Councilman Spear just said. I want the community to know that I will always stand up for what's best for our town and its residents. And once this matter is fully reviewed, it will confirm that nothing unethical was done. Until this time, please know that these attacks are purely political. And I can tell you, when it comes to ensuring the quality of our water that affects our lakes, I will continue to work hard to develop both long and short-term strategies to protect, restore, and enhance the quality of all Ringwood lakes. We need to make sure that all our resources are utilized to support lake ecosystems for both wildlife and human recreational use.
Excuse me.
And this should not be a bipartisan issue.
You have your turn.
Thank you.
So I don't get to talk about that.
That's right.
And no discussion on the merits either, right?
I'm just
okay.
telling the residents.
I just wanted to compare, particular theoretical or
Well,
abstract. Never mind, well, Counselor, I got you. One thing I never understood regarding Toll versus the Borough of Ringwood there, is how come we just don't do an Oprah request to the EPA and get the information? right? I would think that, especially if you're dealing with correspondence between two different governmental organizations, both covered under those type of open public records laws, that you simply get the information from the other source if you have any kind of, bump in the road at one source. So I never quite understood. I don't know if the information is that, is that important that you would take the extra step of finding it from the other party. And Councilwoman, two things. The Highlands grants, up until last year, my understanding of it is, and we'll pull out the records to show this. The Highlands grants were for plan conformance. There's a lot of different things that the Highlands will allow to go into your Highlands conforming master plan, and you'd be able to get grants for these parts. I think our last grant was for the economic development grant, and that's, I think, the last time we had it. So we're going to be going now. Now this is a new set of grants from the Highlands Council, where the Highlands Council is funding a wider variety of different things, and they put out a Chinese menu of possible grant applications you could put in. This was pretty new. I think that the Highlands Council approved that at their November meeting. And the staff even said, this is a new program we're doing here, we're really excited, et cetera and so forth. I don't know what it was. I think they have like $5 million or so they can spend out over the next 5 years. And is what, 87 communities and various counties and nonprofits that are eligible to get this money for various grants. So we're doing very good, and I really commend Mr. Heck for getting that grant through, and really wait and hope to see that letter from the Highlands Council telling us that it's fully approved for $91,000. And it's bad form to put out your opinion on a private business deal in a public format. I guess at this point, given what American Addiction Centers is doing in a corporate sense, we would probably like to see it sold. I don't think we want to say,
I would like to
that's a
have a
bad
meeting
deal.
with the owners
That's
to
not a
understand
good
what's
thing.
going up there.
Pardon me?
I'd like to have a meeting with the owners to see what their plans are for it. I think it's an important property in this town that people are interested in, and I'd like to see and know more about what they're planning.
Didn't they plan to, who are they hiring? Bear Stearns or somebody? They
I
hired
don't know.
somebody to
See, you know a
sell
lot
their,
about
to sell.
this.
No, this was in, if you,
Oh.
well, I'll tell you what. You go get yourself, go into your Google Tracker and track AAC, okay?
Oh, I have
And now
been.
you're gonna
I
get the
have
stocks every day. You're gonna get the stocks, you're gonna get the news. And the news, just a couple weeks ago, was AAC has contracted with one of these Wall Street firms to look at divesting themselves of their property. And they did even talk publicly about this property being worth $20 million.
Right, I
That was
mentioned
part of that was part of that same, cycle of news there.
Right.
I just don't think we ought to be commenting on what we think a proper valuation of it. I think we should really just hope and pray that it moves along quickly, and we move on and go to the next phase in whatever that property is gonna become.
Right.
I think that is it for this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Well, I haven't received any
Yeah.
complaints. Really? So I really have no report to give you, believe me. But it's certainly finishing out my term, and I guess everybody knows that. So I really don't get any complaints from anybody. But I sit here and I listen to all, and I try to concentrate and think about it. Hope we do the right thing all the time, and I think we are doing the right thing most of the time.
40 years being in the complaint department.
40 years I'm done.
Your favorite set of months.
I did have one other question for our town manager, if I may, Mayor. Sandra reached out to you regarding looking at opportunities for the municipality to do solar. She sent an email last month. We met her at the Sustainable Jersey seminar. I was wondering if you had an opportunity to converse with her.
I've been covering for the DPW, as you folks know, so I've been working from 6 in the morning until 6 at night.
Right.
We had all of our supervisors, so I haven't had an opportunity. I've been working with all these other grants, so it is on my list.
Okay,
and
great.
we will reach out
Thank
to
you.
her.
And I was responding to question from the audience when I spoke on that property, just for clarification, if anyone misunderstood. Thank you.
Okay. I've been a member of Skyline Lakes with my family probably since 1957. I worked on restoring the dams, and the one thing in all the years, in many years, we had a lot of volunteers, did a lot of stuff, but nowadays we have to pay for it. It's protection of the lakes.
Right.
What you put in the ground winds up in the water. My other concern, and I have no proof of this, but early on, many septic systems was in front of the house. Now, most of the lakes systems are being put into the rear of the house. So you get the leach fields and, you know, water goes downhill. So everything you flush down eventually goes into the soil. And with all these new systems, it's still getting the ground, get into lakes. The other thing is, don't feed the geese.
Yes, don't.
Okay, I mean, people have company over, if they're at the lakefront, and the company comes and the kids come, and I had a family 3 houses away, and they're throwing bread out to the geese. Okay, one, it's against the law, and you could call the animal control or something. Two, it encourages the geese to stay in your lake because they're being fed. Right now, the geese are in a molting season, so they lost a lot of feathers and they can't fly. And you don't want to encourage them on your grass. You want to chase them. All the lakes, you want them to not feel welcome. The other thing, again, it involves the lake communities. Lifeguards aren't there to babysit your kids. It's the parents' responsibility to watch their own kids. And too often, we see parents, relatives buried in their phones, and the kids are in the water, and then something happens. So, take care of your kids, teach them about safety, teach them about road safety, and let's all have a good summer.
Mayor, I'd like to respond to Ms. Tall's comments and a couple other comments.
Sure.
First and foremost, and some of the people have left, and that's unfortunate. Somebody brought up a shared service with police.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, exactly where that came from. Or I don't know where it's coming from now, but several months ago, Mr. Ehrenhoff at the Chamber of Commerce meeting brought up doing away with the Ringwood Police and just using the county police. And at that moment, I vehemently and strenuously objected and explained all the great things that our officers do. And I, you know, and evidently it's out there elsewhere, and we can't use yesterday, and I shared this with a couple of the council members. We had a call yesterday of a baby, and I'm not gonna tell you where, because obviously I can't do that, in cardiac arrest, not breathing. How in the world is the county gonna get here in 3 minutes to take care of that baby? Now, fortunately, the baby survived, but we have countless times where those 3 minutes count. We have a great dedicated group of police officers and emergency services responding. And I want the public to know that this, myself, if I have an ounce of breath left in me, I will never encourage a shared service of the police department, and I will never encourage a shared service with dispatch. It doesn't work. We're the second largest landmass in Passaic County. We have 75 miles of roads. We can't have a shared service. We can't share with Wanacue. We can't do away with our police department. They're all members of our community. It would be a terrible disservice to this community to do such a thing. And I didn't know that it was still out there, but evidently it is. And I'm just going to tell you from my perspective, as long as I am the manager and I serve at the will of this council, I will never encourage that to be a shared service. You can shared service a lot of things. Emergency services is not one of those optional items. It's the first charge in our responsibility, the health, welfare, and safety of the community. And I just think that that's not even a good plan.
Yeah, two years in finance, we've never even discussed it, and we just redid the contracts, so
Yeah, it's not.
It's
not a
definitely
real
nothing
thing.
that's being under consideration, and.
Well, you asked me where it came from, and so I told you where it came from.
Well-
And many of us were here sitting in this room because it was the mayor's meeting, and that's where it started, and it kind of went around, and they were a little surprised at how strong I was about it, and I'm strong about it tonight, because I don't want the public thinking that. That's not something that's good for the public. I want to talk about the rest of the evening, if I may. You know, you brought up political nonsense, right?
Right.
I'm going to bring up political nonsense. I sit here month after month, year after year, and listen to the attacks of Vanka Tall and her cast of characters. And I don't respond. I don't respond to all the nonsense she posts online. I don't respond to their hatred. When you attack my integrity over a factual information that came from my secretary, Helen Forza, I got a problem with that. I actually feel sorry for her. I mean, for her to live in such hatred must be terrible. But that's the world in which she lives, and I don't understand it. But myself and my family have been subject to this for years. And yes, is there animosity after 20 years of doing this and her never being happy? There's animosity between her and I, and just cause. However, when she calls here and she needs something in the borough of Ringwood, doesn't matter what that animosity is, we go and we take care of it, and we solve it, whether she has a water problem, whether it's a driveway problem, whether it's a paving problem. We don't care. When we walk into this building, we represent all the residents, not just some of the residents. Everyone. Doesn't matter what your political affiliation is, doesn't matter what awful thing you said about me the day before, doesn't matter. We respond. Ironically, I got a call from the GRC. Helen got a call while I was on vacation on April 11th, 2019. Subsequent to that, I returned 3 calls until you actually spoke to him. If I didn't tell this council that there was discussion, she'd be the first one up here saying, why didn't you tell them? Why aren't you keeping the council in the loop? I keep this council in the loop on everything that goes on. Everything. You get it in your packets. Sometimes you don't want to hear it, but you hear it. So it's ironic that she kind of picks and chooses when she wants information to go to you folks and when she doesn't. It's my responsibility when I get a call from the Government Record Council on an active case, my obligation is to talk to all of you, especially when the person who was handling that is no longer employed by the Borough of Ringwood. I really think that that's very appropriate. I'm not an elected official, and I do not have to absorb the abuse that you do when you put your name on the ballot. I'm an employee, and I think that she needs to be mindful of that, because you have to be careful what you say to people and what you say on TV and what you say publicly. This isn't free reign. I've listened to it for years, and I'm running out of patience with that type of stuff. If you say I've created, if I said something inaccurate, show me the proof, and we'll talk about it. So, Mayor, with that, I think that I've probably said enough tonight. I will send you all the information that I have in my message book from Ms. Forza, if you guys want it. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
I'm pausing only because I want to briefly, maybe end on a high note. We touched upon the police. I want to also just mention the dispatchers, since that came up. I think that it's easy. I don't think that most residents understand the role that the dispatcher plays as part of the response team. It's kind of easy to think, well, they're answering the phone, they can be sitting everywhere, but it's important to have people that feel connected to the people who are out in the field that are responding to an incident and approach it as a holistic team and kind of own that response. And then also from a very pragmatic standpoint, that know the difference between all the wind beams that we have in town. So if you can't get pizza on Mount Glen versus Glen, I don't want you sending ambulances to the wrong street. So I just want to say that. And with that, motion to close.
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe? Yes. Spear?
Yes.
Here's the message from Frank Caruso from Helen.